Wingate's ready to go.
I'm ready to go. He's used to it, don't worry.
You ready? Also, I'm sure on this day.
No, it's on here.
Florida City Committee of New Haven Board of Alderers will meet in person at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 13, 2023, for Alderman Chambers located at 165 Church Street, second floor, here and act. Resolution authorizing the mayor to act to accept state ARPA funding for the Connecticut Department of Economics and Community Development, CTD, ECD, and sign any associated state agreements with contractors and other documents that may be desired or necessary, including any subsequent amendment to agree regarding the Robert I. Coogan New Haven Housing Order of the New Haven Board of Alderers of the City of New Haven, authorizing the mayor of the City of New Haven to identify and hold harms the state of Connecticut and against any of all claims and liabilities arriving in connection to the contract for the rapid hearing aid program between the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection Division of the Scientific Services and the New Haven Police Department. Order of New Haven, Board of Alderers of the City of New Haven, authorizing the city of the mayor of the City of New Haven to submit an application to the U.S. Department of Justice Program Rule of Justice Assistance FY 23 Community-Based Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative and not to exceed the amount of $2 million to expand and enhance community violence intervention and prevention initiative, and to accept such funds as offered and executed all documents and contracts as necessary. Order of the Board of Alderers of the City of New Haven, authorizing the mayor of the City of New Haven to submit an application in partnership with the University of New Haven to the U.S. Department of Justice Office for Program National Institute of Justice 2023 Community-Based Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative, CVIPI Research Evolution and associated with training and technical assistance supported in an amount not to exceed $2 million to conduct and outcome and impact and evolution of the expansion and enhancement of community violence intervention and prevention initiative, and to accept such funds in order and to execute all documents and contracts as necessary. Order of the New Haven Board of Alderers, authorizing the City of New Haven mayor or controller to enter a 3-year agreement with Connecticut Violence Intervention Program in the amount of $505,000 to implement peer life coaching with high-risk individuals through the press initiative. These items are on file and available for public discussion. And the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street, for Honorable Brian Wingate, Honorable Michael Smart, City Town Clerk. If you need any subsidiary related accommodations, please contact 203-946-7651 or 203-946-8582. In accordance with the city of New Haven COVID-19 masks are now optional. Public may send comments to the public testimony. NewHavenCity.gov. Thank y'all for coming out tonight. And such a beautiful weather. I want to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves by tomorrow.
Tom Bickmore, Ward 28.
Brian Woodgate, 129.
Jose Crespo, Ward 16.
I want to ask, whoever will speak to the animal shelter, please step up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Devon Zinn, city engineer, reside at 905 Soundview Terrace here in beautiful New Haven. Thank you again for making the time tonight to hear this item. The item before you is to accept another $500,000 from the state of Connecticut for the Robin Improvement Animal Shelter. This is to support necessary renovations to the shelter. As we spoke about the last time, HVAC, animal kennel improvements, a lot of improvements to the sort of back of house areas where cleaning of the animals takes care, feeding, the veterinary area as well, focusing primarily on the comfort of the animals first and foremost, reducing noise, and improving the temperature control of the facility. We're also working extensively with the Humane Commission and various stakeholders there on a master plan, looking at how to eventually add space as well to the shelter. So this does help us get towards that goal of being able to fully fund all of our renovations, which are a combination of state dollars and city funds. I can't quite speak to the exact provenance of the second offering of $500,000 from the state. It is ARPA funds. The first one was state bond funds. There's a slight difference there. However, we are very enthusiastic to, with your blessing, accept these funds and be able to invest more in our animal shelter. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take that one.
From the committee, are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to inquire, is there any city matching funds that is going to be allocated to this particular fund?
So this grant does not require matching funds.
Okay. I think that was it for me. I just wanted to ensure that we're not on my will also match this funding. So thank you for the question.
I do have a question. When will this start?
So we're finalizing some of our design work right now. I think in the next couple of months, we'll see activity starting. We started already to buy out different parts of the renovations, like the all-new flooring, sort of for that. We bought all the new electrical gear for the upgrade the service of the building. That's something that takes 6 months to get, so we purchased that. So we're starting to work through purchasing that as we finish up the ground.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You too. Now we have the rapid DNA. Item number 2. Hang on, see. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sergeant Jared Boyce, 61 Farm Road, Chelmsford.
Thank you so much.
So I'm so sorry. Thank you for this loss to this opportunity to present. Right. It's really a rapid DNA. Problems.
You can share.
And all I'm going to say is that this for the state of part, it's really going to change the cost to protect and have that cost. So some voices the one that's going to be dealing with this machine daily. So he's going to present. Thank you. Yes, sir. So this machine, would you like just a brief description of what it does? Absolutely.
So the rapid hit system is a system of software that enables us to conduct DNA analysis of single source samples, which is samples from that we expect to be from one individual. Typically, we would send those up to the lab, and then we would potentially wait weeks for a result. What the system does that enables us to run that result and get that analysis back in about an hour and a half at the earliest, which is a substantial improvement. It does a great job of moving our investigations along at a very much faster pace. So the MOU is an agreement between the Connecticut State Forensic Lab and the New Haven Police Department, as far as our ability to send that analysis up to them where they have specialists who look at the analysis, compare it to the Connecticut Offender Registry, and then send us results back, which we can then use in the investigation.
Any questions? I do have a question. Thank you. So you're saying that basically you said 90 minutes, you'll be able to get it compared to you had to wait, a substantial amount of time for it. So basically, it would help speed up the process of investigation and eliminating people or, pinpointing people that it actually matters.
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's an investigative tool. So that's pretty much exactly what it does. It eliminates people who aren't involved, and it'll steer us in the right direction to find people who are involved. Now, we've been using it for a while now. The Connecticut State Lab has had one for quite a long period of time, and now that we have this one, it cuts down the time even further. We don't have to travel to the lab to do it. So, yeah,
I think it's a great thing and a great idea, and it's amazing how technology is advancing. Thanks.
Alden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following up with a follow-up question from my colleague here. Given the time frame, given that it's expedited, does that compromise on all the accuracy of the information that's being sent back?
no, it is not. So it runs the DNA against the same system that it would run against if we had sent it up traditionally. The machine is extremely reliable. We do controls with it as well, just to ensure that reliability. We've had no issues whatsoever.
And you answered both of them. I was going to have follow-ups regarding, do we have any test drops to ensure the accuracy and veracity of that particular system, to ensure that the data being sent back is on point. So thank you. Thank you, Chair. Go ahead.
So understanding this will be ours. This will be ours. And ours system. We will control, we will honestly manage it.
Yes, correct. We have the terminal all set up. It's a secure line to the terminal. So there's no question of the integrity of it at all. And we have specially trained technicians who use it. So yes, it's in-house, it's set up, it's ready to go.
Thank you.
And I think it's bad. That's what interesting. Without a Atlanta State's Attorney's Office, these kind of results are not that it would take 4 to 6 weeks plus in response. Correct. So typically we want a response quicker. Plus the State's Attorney's Office, state lab, and then they expedite the process. So now we're getting a lot quicker. So that's the engine of the books.
No, we want to help as much as we can to keep the streets safe. So, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. With how fast it is, that eliminates any room, any contamination, and anything being disrupted with the DNA, correct? Because sometimes they say, well, DNA is left here, before it's tested. These can basically with this rapid test, it never eliminate that, correct?
So the nature of the DNA that we're using is sole source. That's the expectation. So it's going to be bodily fluids, typically that would come from a single individual. So the machine will designate a mixture. If there is any sort of contaminant in
It
it,
is live.
we can't guarantee that there's not a contaminant, but the program won't return a positive result if there is. So it eliminates that possibility for contamination through the way the machine works. So if you have an individual and it's just that DNA, then that's the only time we get a result.
Right, and what I was saying is, you wouldn't have to wait to test it. You don't have to wait to test it, so
That's correct.
basically eliminates the, room for, it being left around there. That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a question that will be coming over directly to the district council of technology.
I give you this.
We hear so much in the press, and again, you don't want to pay attention to this, we hear so much in the press about fault identification, people feeling this, that, or both. Is this technology being used on a uniform basis to really firm that are incarcerated, are affected with people and get nothing different? But getting them a big
Sure, one of the cases you're talking, you hear about identifications, those identifications are from ID, personal identification. That means like a one-on-one and a field for a personal that's on that. Correct, and most false identification. Typically, are not just about DNA. So I'm just trying to get down to the little bit now. So you say, is this coming from a blood sample? Is this coming from a hair sample? What is this DNA sample?
Primarily it's going to be blood, saliva, and semen. We can also use things like cigarette butts, which are an expectation that it would be a single individual, particularly when coupled with other items from the investigation. But primarily those first three.
And just so you know, you'll get DNA from your show. It's nothing about this. There's lots of things that when you does it, you actually use it. And you know some movement and typically you can't just do it all. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity. Let's just say hypothetically, there's a scene. And then you have an investigation ongoing. The detective walks in, sees some evidence, or he's evidence that I can think as potential DNA. This will be sent to our, let's say, headquarters where the machine will be housed. And that will allow for them within 90 minutes to be able to resolve of potentially who's holding that cup or zipping out of it. Potentially.
Sipping out of it, yes. So if there's saliva on the cup, there's a potential for us to be able to access that DNA.
Not a big
Fingerprint we would do separately, but not DNA, particularly from the fingerprint.
okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you so much for what you do. Looking forward to you every day. So. I don't think so. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. We have number 3 item. This is the money item. This is Department of Justice, community-based violence and prevention. Please come up and state your name and address for the record. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Good evening, others. Council Lombardo, please vote for the place communicating connected. Thank you.
Good evening, Janine Talley, 55 East Gulf Street.
Thank you. Sounds.
Yes, thanks. Good.
Others, tonight,
You have 2 tonight.
we actually, but we like to be both one of them.
Yep, we got you. All right. jump over that one, once we finish this one, and go to our meetings of 565.
Thank you, sir. So we want to present a proposal to make to you the journal to the federal government to enhance our price initiative, the transformation initiative, which brings together various stakeholders involved in project more, the U.S. Attorney's Office, project deputy, CPEFP, and also other support services that wrap around social support for people who are at the highest risk of being involved in gun violence. Tonight will walk us through what this proposal looks like, and I hope that we can get your support to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this one single sheet that you have, this gives a little bit more detail of what's required from the grant, but the PowerPoint is going to be a much more high level overview and post without question and answer. So just to begin, I just wanted to provide a little bit of background of some of the statistics that we've become aware of in the city of Benita. Some of that is just from the aggregate level of what's come through the PD and the center and the ED, and some of it comes specifically from the work that we've been doing with individuals through the PRESS program. So just aggregate level, about half of the individuals arrested on federal charges so far this year. A lot of them, most of them, about half of them between the ages of 18 and 26, and 75% of them have been between the age 18 and 35. I point your attention to that because that's the age group that we're focusing on for the grant as well. We're hyper focused on that high risk age group. Additionally, about half of the gunshot related ED visits, they're under the age of 30. And that's been pretty consistent over the last few years. With regard to PRESS specifically, if you guys remember, PRESS was launched last March. So far we have had 101 individuals referred. If you recall, also our goal was to have 100 per year, and we just about hit that. Just acknowledging that we had a little bit of a slow start last spring, but we definitely picked up and we had 101 as of Thursday last week. So over half of those folks are between the ages of 18 and 26. 13 recidivated, that's 13 of the 101 have been re-arrested or reincarcerated. 10 of them, 10 out of 13 were between the ages of 19 and 22. So what we're realizing is like, for what we do in the first year, and again, that might change moving forward, there's something about that emerging adult, that young adult age group that might need free services that might be different from 27 to 29 and 30-year-old. So keeping that in mind, other things that we learned through the PRESS initiative, of course, it won't be a surprise. The greatest needs are housing, employment, workforce development, and mental health. We all know that those are the markers for healthy transitions to adulthood. When we're thinking specifically about the emerging adult age, these are young people who are probably already disengaged from the school system, maybe weren't that successful when it came to transitions to adulthood, but also they're looking for anchors in adulthood, which are really tied to, am I healthy? Is my mind healthy? Social relationships healthy? Do I have a safe place to sleep? Do I have employment that gives me hope for the future? Do I have employment that makes me feel secure, that I have a future to look forward to? And so it kind of just makes sense the way that the numbers land. Additionally, I want to call attention to some feedback that we've gotten from our partners. As you know, PRESS represents, I think, a really unique initiative that combines much of what's been done, mostly in silos where there has been collaboration in the past, some sort of loose, informal, depending on relationships, we now formalize. And some of the feedback that we got through that collaboration is continuing to reduce barriers to people who've been released from prison. We know that they face discrimination, housing, employment, all sorts of stuff. Addressing that systematically has been something that we've been looking to do, and that we'll try to do moving forward. Additionally, relatedly, the need for more workforce development opportunities. Everybody's not going to college. College is expensive. Workforce development programs are, even if they're around and accessible, everyone doesn't know about it. There are costs associated with it. Thinking about that as well. And then addressing the social environment. That's not just, the physical environment of the neighborhood, but also the social networks. One thing that we realize when we talk about high-risk individuals, we talk about the individual. We don't always talk about who's enabling them when they go home. If they had a positive day in programming, who are they talking to at night that might disrupt sort of what they're thinking for the day? So thinking about not just supporting the individual that we're targeting, but the people they spend a lot of their time with. So that brings me to the requirements of the grant. Again, this is page is going to anchor right onto this one pager, but the grant requires a working group. And that, I think, just enhances the collaboration we've already started, but makes it more intense. Makes it so that we meet more regularly, not just with our partners here on the ground locally in New Haven, but also tying in some state folks, tying in more workforce development, thinking more creatively about how do we break down systems, how do we get landlords on board to run into people, just how many more people do we need to include in the conversation, because it can't just be folks who are addressing what your behavior today, but also the things that you're able to access that help with that behavior. And so that's the foundation of this, and those are the folks we're going to be sort of reviewing and informing how we implement these interventions moving forward. The other piece of that, data-driven, the Department of Community Science prides itself on listening and watching what the data says and responding to that. And so what we're going to do is partner with the University of New Haven. I think they're the perfect partner. They got me just got a, they got all everything federal earmark, but I forget what it's called now. But they have some violence prevention work going on with health centers. So it just the synergy between what they already have going on and build on that, I think it makes us keep that in-house and improve collaboration, not only across the University of New Haven, but with their partners in this as well. So they're going to support the implementation of better data collection practices. A lot of our community-based organizations, they function on very small budgets. They are overwhelmed. And so having the support of a university that can send grad students to come in and say, how do we make this easier? How do we train? What can we do to capacity build? That's really important. So they'll be doing that, and they'll be providing some ongoing technical assistance for those programs as well. And finally, enhancing the strategies that we already have. I probably noted that we're just building on what's already here. We already have a lot of strengths here in New Haven, organizations that have been doing this work for a really long time. We want to improve and make sure that we're moving with the time. We're following the data. And so life coaching for emerging adults. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that one in this thing, but life coaching for emerging adults, a lot of our mentorship programs focus on young people. Young people don't magically fix themselves at 18. Some people need mentorship through their early adult years. And so providing that, adding social supports again for the social networks that are not just the folks who we're targeting, but their immediate friends, their family, their partners. And the workforce development opportunities, again, because we know that that's critically important. So overall, we submitted the proposal, 38 letters of support from various community organizations. That includes those here in New Haven, that includes those at the state, philanthropies, anyone who you can think of. We likely got a letter from them, so it's really on hand, all hands on deck. I also want to note that even though the funding was for $2 million, there were folks who committed to participating in the initiative at no cost to us. So folks who promised to make referrals, who promised to, for example, legal aid is going to provide some services to the folks who come through our program. There's some things that we were able to secure in kind that are also part of this proposal. The $2 million that we applied for, hopefully we get it, will run over the course of 3 years. It was October 1st of this year and September of 2026. And just to let you know, the withdrawal that we had for the budget order that was up for tonight was for the National Institute of Justice grant. We were not the lead applicant, University of New Haven was, but they would intend on running a program evaluation for us that would be more robust to inform our intervention strategy citywide. And that is it on that, and I guess I'll come to take questions.
Thank you. Invitation. Any questions from the committee? Alder Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is so important. Your presentation and what we're trying to achieve. Alder Wingate and I, and the other alder that came to in the National League of Cities conference where country, city, nationwide, this issue came up at the various workshops. Mayor Adams out in New York had a meeting roughly 9 months ago. Mayors of big cities to talk about this issue. The Association of Black Mayors had a conference 2 months ago on this topic. Daily, there's news about organizations and cities and municipalities and states trying to deal with this issue. I just wondered, how are we plugged in nationally in terms of best model practices? What's our mechanism for finding out who's achieving anything, even if it's incremental? Philadelphia has had a number of workshops and solution driven. I'm from Pittsburgh, but Mayor Gainey has had several meetings. I on Google Alerts, I kind of subscribe to alerts daily on this topic. I'm just curious how we plugged in so we're
not necessarily recreating the wheel, but certainly very customizing the wheel for the pavement. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are and what mechanism you want to play. So we could really be, tactful and not just say SWAT-like, but how can we respond and implement, things. I worked for something called Empower Debating for 7 years. Organizations in existence for roughly 9 years. And we spent at least 10 to 13, totally $25 million for the program, at least $10 million on prevention. This issue is so critical. I'm just curious, and I'm not trying to depress you and us about our capacity to come up with a solution, but I am curious if we are able to kind of have some sort of motif mechanism to really be as immediately insightful as to acquire information and to share data as we can as we move forward.
Thank you, Alder. Thank you for your kind words, first of all. Great question. We are part of the National Office of Violence Prevention Network. It's a network that brings together on a monthly basis over maybe 30 OVPs at this point, Office of Violence Prevention, and it's led by the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform. We're very well connected. We're staff members over there. Actually, we are exploring receiving some technical support from them as well. Oh, and they are also bringing into the ground to provide technical assistance.
So, Carlos, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is you mentioned what are they written in what capacity? I'm curious. I noticed when I reference Empower Debating and I worked with something called Urban League, Urban League, and we worked with some the iteration of it back in 75. And the Hillhouse graduation just occurred today. As you probably know, the previous presentation about the folks that did not graduate and that cohort they teach. So the people you mentioned as your additional brain communication, what specifically are they, you think they might be able to provide? That would be a further asset value to us. Yeah. Would you like to kind of
Yeah, so they actually offer a range of services and technical support. And, you know, I follow them on LinkedIn and I see that they're in a different city every day of the week offering technical assistance. And so one of the things that we are looking to have them come do is one around data. Again, like I said before, we have a few organizations in the city who've been doing this for a long time. And so integrating that data, we have in there. And so part of sharing information and like, how do we do that? What metrics make sense? What are we not measuring? What should we be measuring? And how do we do that? Are things that we're going to be looking for them to guide us on. The science changes every day. There's studies happening all the time. And as new information comes out, I like to think that I call them Nick Jr. for short because it's a long name. But they're at the cutting edge of it, and they're always sharing information to have them here in our backyard, sort of discussing how we line up with other cities, what might be appropriate for a smaller municipality that maybe does or doesn't link up with what's going on in Chicago. That's what we're going to ask for. Additionally, there are changing sort of standards around credible messaging. How do you do mentorship with emerging adults? What are their needs? We just found out recently, probably in the last 20 years, that adolescent development doesn't stop until someone's about 26, right? And so just keeping that in mind and adjusting what we used to do to now apply it to younger adults. Maybe not the same way we do kids, but thinking about, well, if you're going to do mentoring, what does mentoring look like at 22 as opposed to what it may have looked like for a 16-year-old? What does mentoring look like for someone who didn't finish high school compared to mentoring a college student? So it's sort of applying those standards. So we're going to be looking at them to help us with case management, data, and sort of innovating how we do credible messaging.
Before we go back to you, is there any other questions from the committee before we go back to all the? Okay, I mean, you okay with that? I just want to give everybody a piece of mind. Okay, sure. Well, I had that same question. I'll let you ask that question. You have a question?
Well, I just have a comment.
Well, I'll let him go back to his question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of adolescent development, and you mentioned the science and the recent evidence of that extending to the mid-20s. It also varies on sex. Males are a little slower than you know. My question is, we had a meeting
Mr. Chair, this workshop maybe 7 months ago, and some folks presented a draft report or preliminary report to us. Has that report been incorporated into this proposal and do we have access, has that report been formally submitted? And has that report been publicly shared? Which report you have the balance with the report you have to. It's a group out of Fairfield, you had Sean here, you had. The group print. Yes, so we're still working on the last detail on the blueprint document. We're hoping that this operation. I raised, and I really appreciate your indulgence. This is an aggravation that the report has still not been, I'll give you a chance to revive your answer. Are you saying that it still has not been formally delivered to you? It has been formally delivered to us. It's just being reviewed by the team to make sure that everything makes sense for everybody, that it represents the voice of the community engagement process.
So, in reference to the data that you are putting together and the pieces that you put together, I will ask that you come back, right, and present that, to us when it's finalized. Hopefully sooner than later, we'll make some room in July, for that. You prepared to do that, so our colleagues and you can hear, what was the finding on the blueprint. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just add one more comment?
Yes, absolutely.
Even though it hasn't been officially released, I do want you all to know that, we've been with the information for some time and it was incorporated into this grant application, into the other proposal that you'll see later in the findings, some of the findings.
Thank you so much. Alder Fibley, are you okay with that? Honestly? You on camera, you on recording, you actually should speak honestly, and you will get my chance.
Your response about that, the information has been incorporated here. But we are not aware of that information for us. It's the story. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Alder Crystal. So is there? Okay, go ahead.
I would just like thank you for your presentation today. You were very well informed, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
So my question is there money matching to this? This grant?
No action.
Okay. I always ask that question. Is there not? You want to know, sitting in and pulling up some money to get this grant? Right? You feel total ownership at that point. On the Crystal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question revolves around timing. Is there a deadline to submit this grant? And what is that look like?
Yes, I should have been more informed about that at the beginning of the presentation. The deadline to submit this application has already passed. We submitted the application. However, if it's the decision to not support this application, we will be more than happy to withdraw it. And I do want to apologize about the tight deadline. We became aware of this about a month ago. We had a very tight deadline to work on. We submitted the work on this report as soon as we figure out that we wanted to apply this.
Thank you.
And granted, thank you, Mr. Chair, there's certainly multiple deadlines that you have to achieve. And sometimes, submitting the application before coming to this committee is something that you have to do. But my question will now be, was the chair at least the public safety notified, or at least will be notified, and when it came to submit its application, just to find out you made your support, that the pipe given that it meets your prior, lesson.
I'm not sure if it was communicated to the chair before. I did speak with the chair about a week ago, or I couldn't get this to that.
And is the grant that you're applied for, is the whole grant $2 million? Okay.
Yes.
Because I've been in discussion with several grant writers. And oftentimes they try not to apply for both in order for them to be able to be considered. So maybe in the future, when you might get a particular grant, you want to come up with the whole thing versus, what is looking like, I'm going to go 1.8, because for whatever reason, those are applicants are more considered versus someone who's accessible. Just that's that.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Yeah, so this is a piggyback a little bit on what my colleagues and all of us was said about submissions and, timing is, right? You got to think of this committee as, a friend. You want to get the things done. You want to get the information out. You want to you want to lead the charge on really trying to, public safety, community-based, violence prevention, I sit here now, I feel like school veterans know what I'm about to say, right? I was, a part of Project Longevity. Like I was the chair when that happened, right? Like Project Longevity came through this committee as I was the chair. It's the second time around for me, right? And so, with us, we want to cross our T's and dot our I's in reference to getting things done because we do care about this stuff, public safety, as you can hear, the passion and the questions around it. So just keep that in, as y'all go through that process. Okay?
Absolutely, thank you, sir. And just along those lines, I also learned that we could submit a prior notification form, make sure to do that moving forward.
Yeah, because we got a great team, right? We got a great team with Jessica just coming on, and she's doing really great. And she'll have a problem emailing me anytime. So that is all. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add that, one of the points that was highlighted in the exception presentation was workforce development, work.
Yeah.
And our legislative agenda is improving jobs, helping folks. So we are on board already from the get-go. We want to do this and through the chair. Yes, this is something we're here to work together, collaborate. So it's just, letting us know what you do of us and to let us know ahead of time. We can kind of then say, granted, because you do exceptional work. This is something we do need in our community. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you, sir. So before we move on to the next item that you will present for, I just want to comment that I do like the fact that you put all the entities together, right? The Project Longevity, the Project Boards, and all of those kind of entities to really do it, because I think that's what you need to be doing, right? In the best practice way. Not duplicating, but, basically pulling everybody together to move in one direction. So in a part of, in the package, from my understanding, I gotta do basically like committees and teams and developing growth. So, at some point we have a big party where everybody goes down. So if there's no more on this particular item, we'll move to the next agenda. And that would be the next. Thank you.
Thank you, others.
So now we're gonna move to item $565,000. Yes, I'm ready.
So, we would like to talk about multi-year contract, with the Connecticut Violence Intervention Program. We have, for the first time, we have funded them to provide support services, this fiscal year to people who are over 18 years old. We talked about a little bit more about it, but this year we want to build on what we learned during this first round with CTVIP, in providing street outreach and violence intervention. We want to start moving more towards them providing life coaching for those who are at the highest risk of meaningful gun violence. I'll let my colleague Jim Manning as well as what it looks like.
What is that? What is the CUIP stand for?
Connecticut Violence Intervention Program.
Let's do
So, I'm gonna assume that you are familiar with CTVIP, which is to make sure, that we're all on the same page. CTVIP was, transitioned from the street outreach program out of New Haven Family Alliance some years ago. And they're based on the care violence model that relies on credible messengers, folks who are tied to the community, folks who know their neighborhoods, and are trusted faces in those neighborhoods to intervene where violence could happen, to serve as mediators, to serve service networks in cases. And that's what CTVIP has been doing for some years now. Historically, though, long-term case management. And so, CTVIP has worked with adults in cases of mediations and following potential retaliations following incidents, but they have not done long-term case management for adults over the age of 18. Case management services have mostly been deployed, primarily been deployed on a school-based basis, with young people who are under NHPS and those who should be in NHPS even if they're not attended. And so what we're doing here is new for CTVIP. It is brand new. They're going to provide long-term case management to adults between the ages of 18 and 26. And earlier we heard a little bit about why that group is important, but I just wanted to reiterate that here. And so on the next page, you see this diagram. This is sort of what they were contractually obligated to do this last fiscal year. It was cut up into two parts. So half of it was a part of the press initiative, which we just talked about. And just to give a little bit more detail about press for those who aren't familiar with it, press is our multi-agency collaboration between Project More and Project Longevity. CTVIP, we have law enforcement at the table as well as probation and parole. And as folks are being released from incarceration who have gun-related charges or private charges, they come straight to us, referral basis, and we wrap around them, not just with those who are at the table, but also adjacent social services that might be needed, including substance abuse, mental health, and other things like that, housing, et cetera. And so part of the responsibility of CTVIP coming in the door was there were some folks who we just were not going to get to come and sit in that meeting. And so for folks who we couldn't get, who didn't show up, who were hard to engage, who maybe engaged a little bit, but didn't really seem interested, we would send CTVIP trusted federal messengers to them, to their loved ones, folks who were familiar with their families, their siblings, maybe someone to try to get them services. And so that was part of their responsibility under this contract. And also as part of that as well, they offer services. So the studio at CTVIP, some people could use studio time as an incentive that was tied to sort of therapy in some cases. They had men's group and a mentorship program there as well that they ran once a week, and so that was to recognize who were coming through. On the other end of this contract, we had assigned neighborhood-based PPPs. And so there were some parts of the city we heard at the beginning of last year who didn't necessarily have a violence prevention person who was assigned to them. Those neighborhoods included Exit 8, we didn't have one in Fairhaven. And so what we did was, okay, part of this is going to be getting 4 part-time PPPs out there on the streets in those neighborhoods where we didn't have someone before. And so they've been doing that this past fiscal year. I'll share a few metrics on what that looked like in a second. And as usual, what CTVIP always does, what we include in the contract as well, is responding to emergency incidents. That might be showing up on the scene, that might be going to see the family, especially if they were familiar with them. That might be me going to the hospital, just making sure that things stay cool, or following up with people who were close to the situation after, just to make sure there weren't any issues. So that's what they were up to this year. So in terms of how it's been going, PPPs, they're part-time again, they work 25 hours a week. On average, they engage 25 to 30 residents per shift. Of the folks who we asked them to outreach for through the press initiative, we had 11 outreach clients this year who just literally couldn't find them. Maybe didn't have a number, maybe there was an address, but they weren't always at the address. We could find around about like 8 of those 11 folks were reached. 7 of them were connected directly to services, with 1 of them refusing. 20 conflicts have been mediated, especially those following emergency incidents. 13 community events attended. I'm sure you all have seen the neighborhood events recently. At CTVIP out there, any community event they try to go to, including vigils or things after in the aftermath of some violent incidents. And on a regular basis, they're canvassing with PD, they're canvassing with Revere, they're canvassing with Project Longevity as well. And a lot of their clients actually end up staying with them and utilizing their services on these campuses too.
One of the things I would like to add, the contract with CPA this fiscal year started very late due to contractual issues. The contracting process can take several months, and they took also a couple months to hire this town. So the matrix that you see here does not reflect the work of our whole fiscal year. Let's start. Let's sort of graph.
So some additional insights from this intensive community outreach, and I call it intensive community outreach because I think it was something that was very special to be very intentional, particularly in those that were in need this last year. The VPPs report that they've been building familiarity, building relationships in those neighborhoods, fostering a sense of mutual respect with people who they see repeatedly on the street and keeping in the know on what was going on. I have an anecdote that I was asked to share with you all about an incident that occurred in the Trey recently, where just organically, by virtue of being in that neighborhood, being from that neighborhood, one of the VPPs was actually at the corn store and diffused a potentially violent situation between a patron of the store and someone who worked at the store who was ready to engage in violence in that moment. So we thank them for their work and also just being in the neighborhood to know where to find that young man following the incident and talk to them and mediate it. So the trusted faces, the communication, the proximity, it just makes it really natural for folks in the neighborhood to be able to go to those folks in a way that they maybe won't go to the police, they maybe won't go to a parent, they maybe won't go to a friend. It just depends, and them being there is really important. That. The other thing that I wanted to know about the VPP being in the neighborhood is that I think in some cases, I think in some cases, door to door, like when folks are coming out, like you see the canvases and stuff, that's not going to work for everyone. I think it works for some people. But going door to door and showing up to people's asking to speak versus it organically happening and them seeing you, we're not paying for work. I think that does a lot for folks. And that's some of what we heard is the difference between being asked and being available when someone is ready. And I think that's what the value that VPPs have on the street. The next page, I'm not going to read it, but there are some, these are actually quotes taken from two of the VPPs who started this year. I think it's really important to know that they are new and they are not folks who have been with CTVIP for very long, because it shows that when you do this intensive outreach, when you're familiar with the neighborhood, when you're relentlessly out there letting people know that you're available, it does come with this. These are not folks who have the reputation of having worked with CTVIP for a long time. These are people who came on board, did the work on the ground, got to know people, had those conversations, and they developed this in a very short period of time. And I think that's really. And so with all those lessons that we spoke about earlier, and then also what I just spoke about a moment ago, every neighborhood doesn't lend itself to the door-to-door stuff, like I mentioned. And so it's like, the example I give is exit 8 here, there's a difference between walking and knocking on doors in Fairhaven, or just running into people on the street in Fairhaven and walking up Quinnipiac Avenue. They're not walking up Quinnipiac Avenue. And so while a street outreach worker may be able to do one thing in Fairhaven, that same thing maybe isn't as possible in a neighborhood like exit 8 or maybe another part of the city. And so, yeah. And so what we're, table that for a second, sorry, let me get to the rest. The other thing is that when,
No, I just came up with this one. You could.
okay, sorry. So the other thing that we realize is that with the door-to-door stuff, with canvases, again, earlier I said that CTVIP gets maintains a lot of the clients that they need, or clients come in who are family members of folks they run into while they're canvassing. If they're primarily there for community engagement, it makes it really difficult because they don't have access and forward case management of those folks who are interested in it, right? And so what we're looking to do, what I'm going to talk about in a second, is scaling back some of the community engagement, not a whole lot, just a little bit, to create time for them to have space to case manage folks intensively. And I think that having VPPs who are able to do that within the adult population is going to be really important forward. I think this could really plant a seed for what it could look like to scale that up at some point, but just to try it on a trial basis for this 3 years and then scale it up with additional resources.
So when you say scaling back and trying to deliver more, I want to say a coaching approach, right? To the individual. Can you break down what
services you will be providing with that skill approach for coaching?
So to remove the sort of some of the community engagement and focusing on the client. Right?
For the services.
So the way that I think about the coaching is, and I guess I'll point in another slide later, the folks who are coming into our violence prevention programs have case managers. Project London has a case manager, social worker. Project One is a case manager, social worker. And what happens with case managers is that they're often relied on for day-to-day support. I have a question about this thing. I'm dealing with this issue when I need some advice. And that is part of the reason why social workers and case managers get overwhelmed very quickly, because they have a caseload of 25, 30, 40 people. And unless they even half of those individuals are looking for day-to-day support in different small things, it can get very overwhelming very quickly. And if the case manager doesn't have the capacity to respond to that in a way that is meaningful for the individual, it actually might turn them off to case management because they're not getting the intensive support that they need and they feel. So what we're trying to do is unburden the social workers and the case managers and increase the support, the natural support that comes from somebody who not only is somebody who's going to be able to give you the attention to give you the support in your day-to-day sort of decision making and the things that you're doing, but also they'll be able to give you the support, but they're also, I think, I lost my train of thought, I'm so sorry. Scaling back on being able to do that and and then because those folks are also system involved, they're going person to person often, they're getting referred to different places and there's not a familiar person to help them navigate all of that. It can be really chaotic if you're somebody who needs a job, if you're somebody who needs to get their GED, if you're somebody who needs to go get their driver's license, if your case doesn't have the capacity to walk through all that, you might get discouraged, you might not do all that, but if you have a person who's like, look, it ain't that bad, just go here, this is how it's going to work, it just provides a different level of support. And I think it's also supplementing, we're talking about folks who are often disengaged from a lot of systems, who often haven't had a lot of engagement in places that they maybe should have, to have somebody walking through that, it really could mean a lot, it really could be a game changer. So if you don't have a social support system or you don't have folks who have been able to help you navigate life to the point of success that you see for yourself, having a mentor, having somebody who's going to do that for you, stand in for maybe a mom, a big brother, a big sister or something, that could really be a game changer on a daily basis. And that's what
You good?
oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so the caseloads would be about 3 to 5 BPPs per part-time person, or 3 to 5 clients per part-time BPP. And so in total, we're looking at about 12 to capacity of 12 to 15 individuals who can be served in a year. 12 to 15. I'm lying, sorry. 12 to 20. 12 to 20 individuals, depending. 12 to 20 individuals would be able to be served by the BPPs. That's not completely getting rid of community engagement. That's just scaling it back a bit to make room for case management. And so again, this would be press focused. So we're going to want to get those folks in press who would benefit from the case manager, in addition to some daily support from a mentor, but also in the case that there's something will not come to the press table, we'll be able to that. Those folks might be more responsive to having a mentor than being officially involved in the role of case management. And maybe that might even serve as a pathway to more formal case management. And so that's what we're looking at.
Thank you for your attention. One question? Sorry. Okay. One question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just putting my prior occupation hats on with regards to scaling back. You know, having a background in career advising and being a certified professional as a writer, helping folks re-engage back into the workforce. Given that you're going to scale down from the caseload of, let's say, however they had prior to now 3 to 5, which is crucial. You know, I as a case manager, I handle the caseload at any one time, and that certainly is overwhelming, and you can burn out easily, quickly, within 4 to 6 months. Do you foresee hiring more BPPs to be able to target those
neighborhoods of focus, if you will, in order to not only just increase those numbers from, you have a caseload of 3 to 5, you want to target 12 to 20 per year. What about developing more VPPs within that group of individuals that are coming out of the program saying, you know what, I'm a success story. I would like to now give back to those that who've already given me. Like for example, youth at work, whenever youth at work, student goes through the process and they graduate, and then we come back to the program and become a mentor, what is the possibility for those individuals to become like deputy VPPs, if you will.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but thank you all there. I think that's a really good idea. I think because, they're already adults, they're already in that emerging adult age. I don't think we thought about that, but I think that there's definitely a pathway to do that. And I think that CTV, I think would be open to it. And we know that VPPs, even now, the ones that are currently employed by CTV and other support agencies, a lot of those folks were troubled folks at one point who had mentorship and benefited from mentorship. So I can see that being a pathway for them.
So you just answered my second question, which the chair was, have these individuals that are walking in Fairhaven, in Detroit, Brookside, Route 80, have they lived in that particular environment to be able to know? Because oftentimes we have wonderful professionals that want to come in, but they lack the experience. It's a cultural thing. By living in that particular atmosphere, you understand you have a level of, street smarts, if you will, where certain individuals, like you said, canvassing may not work. It's just a random, natural interaction, start a conversation. It triggers a, hey, you have a wealth of knowledge. Can I talk to you about, I need a job, I need a resume, I need behavioral health, I need medical. You know what, can you help me with BSS, I need housing? Is there any way that I can, I need volunteer hours, I still have to finish my whatever it is. Because I think it's crucial to have folks with a background that come from these particular environments to be effective. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions? All the time. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a Facebook friend with a lot of folks, so I noticed on Leonard Jihad's Facebook page, he returned from a conference in the Midwest about 3 or 4, maybe three months ago. It was really insightful, so I reached out to Leonard, like maybe that evening, that next day, about coming on my radio show. So Leonard will be on the show on Friday. Should he reference this renewed economic infusion on Friday?
I think this is still pending approval from the board of others, so I'm not sure what's the protocol there.
Should he reference his desire to should he bring up the status? Because fill the community in on the process.
Maybe the idea of the council.
If you two might want to reach out to him in that regard. It's really, this issue is so important, and I appreciate you mentioning the street outreach workers, Barbara Ting, and others. So we have a long history for trying to resolve this, and really, all of us hope that it will lead toward better solutions, quicker solutions, more effective solutions. Thank you. On Mr. Chair, on the community engagement, Leonard's location, Ashland Street location, there's an event on Saturday. And he's been really making that space available to folks, where he doesn't have to go, the organization doesn't have to go out, the people can come in for them, and not even think that it's case management, but just that fun, health, safety, etc. Also given his he's on a fraternity, he's a leader of the fraternal organization. We're only in that in a few weeks. So rather than him having set up tents, he's really making that location readily available in a variety of ways, like almost like the Trojan horse, but in a good way. But if you could reach out to like the Trojan better and see if he wants to add to his sound bites on Friday, I would appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you, Alder. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone you mentioned with this particular variant?
No, sir, there's not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, would the respective VPPs and those folks be able to be names to be sent through the chair to the respective alders? I think it would be essential. For example, I'm a Fairhaven alder, and there's about 4, maybe 6 alders within Fairhaven that if we can partner with that VPP and collaborate, we may be able to say, hey, we have someone in need. We have a endangered 18 to 26 or 30-year-old who needs assistance and collaborate in that manner.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. I do have some more background information to add on DGNA's presentation that was not provided. So these contract is paid through ARP funding that was previously allocated to my department by the board of others in 2021. We're seeing those funds, and one of the things that we found out a few weeks ago, is that ARP dollars, contracts with ARP dollars, we cannot use the option to renew. It has to come through the board of others. That's why we started this process, to be respectful of it. And again, it's one of those situations where we are on a deadline. We want CTVAP to continue services forward through the end of the fiscal year. And I do want to respectfully ask of you if this item could be discharged for the full vote in the upcoming board of others meeting.
Thank you. As we deliberate, we will take that in consideration. I appreciate you. So that is more about your time on this. I do appreciate the presentation for both items. The second item, I think, is very, very crucial. I see what you're doing around the coaching part. I think that will be people to you once they find out how wonderful the background services are. If I can make a suggestion as we move forward is, jobs, reach out to the entities of New Haven Works, try to partner with them, right? Have them as a opportunity, right? I don't know if I did that already or not. I thought about that process, but hopefully that, that can include them as a graphical service, right? Because we have some opportunity right there. Because a lot of times they need something to do and nothing like having a job. Right, so I'm just make a suggestion. Is there any more questions for the committee on these items? I didn't have a question. You want to hold for discussion? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Did anyone from the public like to speak to these particular items? Going once. Are there anyone from the public like to speak to these particular items? Twice. Are there anyone from the public like to speak to these particular items? At this time, for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close the public portion of this meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, move item 1.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I think that with item number 1, the $500,000 for the animal shelter and its renovations is essential. We definitely want to consider that. I certainly am in support of it. We should definitely accept those funds or at least authorize that they do accept it, given the additional match funding. So it's a win-win for us. And we see that they've already initiated the purchasing of equipment, purchasing of different, purchase orders, items that take months, so we can already see the commitment of the city. Upgrading and renovating the HVAC system, animal kennels, better improvements, better features, better everything. And I think this is something that should be considered, given that they're also collaborating with the Humane Commission. So I urge this committee to support it.
Yeah, I also, think it's a no-brainer around the animal shelter getting us, totally expect. So I'm in total support of, moving it forward. Yeah. All right, so on the item before us, the animal shelter plan is favorable, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, move item 2.
All's in favor? Aye. Discussion. This is the DNA.
Correct.
This is the game changer for the city of New Haven, public safety, for the New Haven Police Department. They've been really moving in technology over the last couple of years, and I think this right here is another, opportunity for them to, keep us safer. So I'm total support this, DNA record.
Mr. Chair, I also would like to demonstrate my support. The Coherence Finance are starting to move into the right direction. We are not only becoming a competitive department, but we want to ensure that the technology is also there, the programs that are necessary to help us resolve those investigations, which will allow for more time for the officers to perhaps be out in the field talking to the constituents and become an actual community policing as they are. I think it's essential to approve this item, and my complete support is with it as well.
I also join in. I feel that this is a thing that's definitely needed. If the time that it will cut out, like you said, give them time to do other things and time to zero in on who actually is the culprit and eliminate who's not. So I give my full support on it.
All's in favor?
Mr. Chair, I neglected to add also that the key point that my colleague and I were discussing with the chief and with the sergeant was that it not only enhances the speed, it expedites that process. And it almost cuts the middleman when we go, even though we collaborate well with the city attorney's office. But now with this equipment on site, we can bypass that. Within 90 minutes, we can have a response, we can have a result, which means that we have officers being able to respond, remove folks out of the streets, put them back behind bars where they belong, and continue to be a safer community. I think this will enhance the community safety. And as a public safety, we should definitely approve it.
Yes, all in favor of moving the DNA testing to the floor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. We're moving towards item number 3, which is police intervention.
Mr. Chair, I move item 3.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, this is an item, application for the Justice Department. I think it is essential. We are able to see the data that was presented before us. They met the threshold. They surpassed at least one referral. They met 101 individuals. They serviced 101 individuals. They're targeting the age group that is at risk, that is high, between 18 and 35. This is something that we, in our legislative agenda, we promote better jobs, more opportunities to workforce development, workforce lines, New Haven Works. And I think this is something up our alley where we can definitely approve it. 38 letters were submitted for support, definitely the community and those stakeholders have submitted their request for approval. It's something that we need. It's $2 million. They've already, submitted it. I think let's approve it.
I second it.
You got your lot already. Right. All right. Okay. I appreciate you. I'll let you go. I'll let you go. You know, I'm truly, I like it all, right? This is what we need, right? I think we need to do some more, cleaning on that side and wrap it kind of and put things before us because we don't want to be behind the eight ball around different things and trying to push things through. So that's a long conversation. And I hear you loud and clear, colleagues, right? That we should be getting some of this stuff before it rolls out. And we wanna help them along. Okay? All right, you got my word on that. All in favor of moving this item, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. This next item, we're gonna leave to withdraw, which is the fourth item tonight. And we're gonna move to the fifth item.
We still need to take a
Mr.
motion.
Chair.
Oh, don't need to take a motion on that, Mr. Chair.
That's why you're here. I appreciate you so much. Ladies, to have a motion on leaving this to withdraw.
Mr. Chair, I so move this item to leave to withdraw.
I second. All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Wait, hold on. This one you're gonna discharge. So you don't need a motion on this one. You all can just talk about it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's why you talk about it. That's why you talk about it.
Discussion. Mr. Chair, on item number 5, given the time, the timeline that they have, it would be in the best interest if we discharge the item from the committee so that it goes to the full board and they can take action. Hopefully as a unanimous consent item, if it's the approval of this body. But it is the CTEIP program of section $565,000, which is something that is crucial to our community. You know, folks that are in need of, you know, violence prevention intervention. We definitely have our officers to provide assistance and work in that capacity, but this particular program enhances more boots in the streets, in the field, in the trenches, where they're able to work. They come from those environments, they know the population, they know the actual crowd, and that can be essential to helping not only just prevent crime, help them change their lives, give them the resources they need, wraparound services, and hopefully bring those back as mentors and duplicate the services or increase the services to make it a more holistic approach and have a better safety community. I just think we should approve this.
I totally agree with you. I want to ask that this body, right, have, let's say, a together to this department in reference to the timeliness of how we move things. I think we need to do that, right? Because this is not the first time we've been back and forth with the process. So I'm in full support of this because I think it makes sense, right? And I like the fact that they're going to the coaching part because I believe once you go to the coaching part and you step away from the door knocking sometimes, that will open up things because the people hear about it, you know, the service that you have around, how they help me, how they help them. So I think the approach is right. Right, I think the approach is right about what we're doing, right? It evolves itself as we go through these different phases when people talk to each other around town. What did you need to help on? Right, and that's what we should be doing, right? At the same time, I want us to work in tandem around time, right? Just like I said earlier, we are very, we're flexible. Like we move these people around, right? As a public safety, we give meetings up, we take on meetings, and if they need to meet a deadline, right, we'd be able to be flexible around it, right? But we want a consistent model of what we're doing, because they have to come before the board to get anything through, right? So we don't want to stagnate nothing, and, you know, we don't want to put nobody else in a situation where they need to think. So if they can communicate to us in that way, then I think we'll be better. So I'm in favor of this item moving forward. I would thank you for this.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention, next month will be my first year in July, so I still consider that to be still a newbie. But I've admired your consistent approach, sharing that we're all on the same team, and because roles and titles. But your introduction of the meeting, yes, our panelists consistently, there are a number of tremendous points that you've made. But it's a fundamental thing that we're all on the same team. So my point is, it's disappointing that Alder Crespo referenced the fact of knowing those individuals. That should have been a no-brainer for them to share that. We would have thought about that. Same way that our neighborhood specialists are so key to us. Boots on the ground, it should have been an automatic no-brainer. So whatever is in the others administration's mind that we're not friends and that we're not those, but we're friends. We need to eliminate whatever's causing them to think that it's a false narrative. It's obstructing justice, actually, for all our people. So I just want to emphasize your motif and the operational procedures and to echo all the Crespo's comment. None of those folks nowhere together. Thank you.
Thank you for, those kind words. We try to do things best practice ways, right? And, you know, as the say, teamwork is a dream work, right? You know, we can be disagree, but then we say it's not safe, and the interest is all the same. Trying to keep the neighbors safe, right? So, all in favor?
You do not need to vote on this if you intend to discharge it.
I intend this.
Okay.
I'm in favor, Mr. Chair, just for one of the regular people. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Don't adjourn. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for staying with us.